Right, Foildrive. Now, I originally started looking at the idea of making this video specifically about the product, but as the weeks and months passed, it became clear that the concept doesn't really need addressing so much as what's going on with the attitude around it. And what is going on right now is the start of something new. Love it or hate it, I think that the future with regard to this is coming, and as someone who plugged into this side of the sport already, having not been plugged into the prone side of things, perhaps my viewpoint is slightly and optimistically one-sided. That said, a lot of my friends did not, have not, and potentially will never get into this, and their attitudes seem quite passionately negative, which I've found quite surprising. Now, it's been made clear to me that there is value in suffering, and to all those folk who learn to master foil sports with only the power of the wave in their arms, I sincerely salute you. That is a journey that I could not have made personally, and what we see now is a whole cross-section of our community coming to the waves without having served their apprenticeship in unassisted flight. I am a classic example of that. I'll be the first to admit that the long journey into a surf break includes exposure to a culture and etiquette that is learned during this long and hard apprenticeship. Dropping the ability to ride waves without this knowledge is going to be big and a contentious issue, and surfers are not known for their forgiving sort of live and let live nature. But I'm lucky. My local beaches are plentiful, they're perfect for foil sports, they're uncrowded if not deserted, and I'm in the minority when using foil assist. Living in a high population area with really busy breaks, it's going to get interesting and potentially not in a good way. One of the Foildrive strap lines is get creative, and this is a really good motto when you're thinking about dropping yourself into a busy, old, established surf break, i.e., have a really good think about it, because this is a complicated situation. Anyway, enough of this. Everyone's going to do what they do, and it's everybody's right. It's not my place to judge. What I'm going to talk to you about now is the sport itself. So if you're here to feast on a bit of controversy, then it's probably time for you to head down to the comments. Now, I can foil on a kite with a wing pretty well, but unassisted foiling is a different beast. It's hard and it takes ages. And it's why I hear people saying that there is value in the struggle. Value or not, it's a path my life would never have time for. So this is a quick and easy hack into the world of riding waves on a hydrofoil. Now, for those of you who think this is going to be completely plug and play, it's not. It takes a fair bit of time to get dialed. And not only is the drive itself something that's tricky to master, but unpowered flight without physically something in your hand, be it a wing or a kite bar, is actually, I think, remarkably difficult comparing the two. Now, this whole thing started as an assist, a boost to get you up on the foil. But now with the max battery that you can plug in, I've got one here, it's a big old beastie, 40 volts now, so that's extra power to the motor, so the motors are now really powerful, and the capacity in these things, you can ride pretty much for a solid hour. So if you wish, that means an end to paddling. No more getting stuck on the inside of line breaks, which used to just do my head in. It's one of the reasons I've never surfed. Moreover, you can go out the back, you can pick any wave you want out of a set, and once you're in, you can, if you wish, motor straight back out again and get the next. Now, the wave count, as you can imagine, just goes through the roof. You can choose to meter out the battery and pick the best, or you can just simply go for everything. I do think there's some value in restraint and being a bit more proactive in what you ride and how. Things can get pretty mindless if you just keep your finger on the trigger. One other side of this is the ability of the Foildrive to play in tiny waves. Waves so small that you could never surf on them, not even with a longboard, never mind paddling into them on a prone board. And we spent 2 days in Ireland playing on nothing more than sort of sock, ankle, knee-high sets rolling into a small, shallow, sandy break. And you just simply couldn't use anything else in these conditions. Maybe a boogie board, but I'm being racist about boogie boarders now. But honestly, these small wave sessions were engrossing. The number of waves that I've caught since using this thing, well, it would probably have taken me 3 years through traditional methods, and I've only been doing it for pretty much 3 months. I started in winter, and it became very clear very quickly that unlike wind sports, you can use a foil assist in far lower temperatures. And that means that my water time continues sort of right the way through the winter. And it's pretty much suffer free. Your hands don't get cold. There's no wind around to really chill you off. And that's really, really important, certainly in Northern Europe. A few of my friends started this journey with me at the same time, and they'd been sort of avid prone foilers for a few years, paddling up onto the foil. Now, both of these guys have now stopped prone foiling completely, and that is telling. Now, it's not the sort of thing that the prone foil community really wants to hear, and I understand why, but it is what it is. We are seeing this. As to the actual Foildrive Gen 2 product that I bought, and I bought mine full price, full retail from a dealer, I did have some concerns, as you could well imagine. One, it's extremely expensive, I'll come to that in a minute, but it is electrical and it's going to live in the sea. And yeah, that's a worry. Now, the reality is that everything that's electrical in it is potted, i.e. it's encased in solid epoxy, so it's completely hermetically sealed, and there are no electrical components available to the environment, with the exception of the battery terminal, which sits inside a sealed case, which is clamped shut, and an electrical connection between this sealed potted unit here and the cable going to the motor. The motor is also completely potted. And so you're just relying on these two seals, which are really, thankfully, well engineered. And so far as I know, there have been no actual water issues that I've heard of so far. One other funny story, I lost my controller, this very controller here. It fell off my wrist while I was just getting into the water once, and I just completely lost it in the shore break. Anyway, 2 weeks later on Facebook, popped up, somebody found it on the beach, so I went round their house with a bottle of wine, picked it up. 2 weeks it had been rolling around in the shore break, still had a full charge, and I still use it to this day. It had a bit of sand in which I had to wash out, but the controller itself, potted in epoxy, and it's completely watertight. It charges wirelessly, so there's no external access to any electricity at all. Really very impressive and quite remarkable. The other thing that was a potential worry to me were component failures. But again, I've had no personal problems whatsoever, though I have heard of some friends who've had issues. But Australia directly have sorted them out with warranty and replacement parts, and they've been back out on the water within a week. Chiefly, the biggest concern when you look at buying one of these things is the cost. And they really are expensive, really expensive. But the conditions for it where I live are absolutely perfect. If you don't live near good waves or it's really crowded and busy, you probably wouldn't use it, but I do. I knew I would, and right now it's my most used bit of kit. And for the last 3 months, the cost per session, it's minute compared to the value that I've had out of it. So I have absolutely no qualms whatsoever. If they offered me my money back on warranty, I'd take another unit without question. It really is part of my life right now. The other concern that I had is the weight. And yeah, fully rigged up with the max battery, this thing is not lightweight. But that weight is centralized over the mast, and perhaps you're hindered a little bit in maximum pumping effectiveness, but that's of no great issue because you don't really rely on pumping exclusively to get you significant distances. And also, if you think about it, if the weight is in line and the whole thing is centralized, then it's taking my weight up from sort of 83 kilos up to sort of 87 kilos. And does that really make any difference? Not really. As long as everything is in line with your body, it is. It does dumb down the board a little bit, but you really just don't notice it so much and you adapt to it very easily. The other concern that I had was the drive pod striking. Now, yeah, it's only 5 centimeters thick, but it's adding 5 centimeters onto the length of your mast, and it's also, there is drag there in it. And the truth is that, it does drag. I think it drags. And for that reason, I made an experimental board with an inset in the deck for the pod. Now, that gave me only 1 centimetre between the top of the pod and my foot, and it completely sunk the pod. And not only did this do away with the drag, it also brought the motor more in line with the direction of thrust on the board, which stopped the nose from riding when it was under power. And it also gave me a lot more connection to the foil, with me being closer to the foil without having this drive pod there. And that, I believe, is a massive advantage. And I predict that the technology moving forward will include that inset drive into the boards. I mean, traditional foil boards that I see now have a ton of volume, and yeah, it's fine if you're paddling home without any power. But if you are on power, the only thing that really matters is the surface area of the board and its resistance over the top of the water. And that's relevant to how much power is required to get to your feet. So it's fairly well accepted by most of us that thinner boards ride better. So I just don't understand why they have these big, hammy, thick boards. What's interesting is that after plenty of foil assist sessions and not much winging, the next time I went back to winging, especially sort of flagged in wave environments, my standard was massively improved. Sort of confidence, balance, awareness, and it's absolutely clear that I'm a much better winger now than I was before, which was really surprising. So there you go, that's my take on foil assist. Clearly it's a technology that is not going away anytime soon, for better or for worse, and I think it's really going to shake quite a few things up. I am saddened a bit by all the negativity around it, but that's not something new. I mean, back in the day, the windsurfers were all convinced that the kiters were going to chop their ears off. The kiters and the surfers were all convinced that they'd been chopped in half by the hydrofoilers. And can you imagine, sort of, when the first match was made, a box full of little bombs? I mean, what absolute madness. Why on earth would you just not rub two sticks together? But this is progress, and not everything comes smoothly. What I do know is that this thing is right now a core part of my year, and it's given me the abilities and taken me to places and situations that I would never have reached without it, for better or worse. But for that, I am genuinely very grateful. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below and I'll try my best to answer. And here's wishing you a brilliant year ahead. And remember, if someone snakes your wave, it definitely wasn't me, but it could be my mate, because he's an absolute nightmare with this thing.